Wild Style Radio.
Stand up and shout!
What is up? And welcome to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show with Wisk and Kev, coming to you live from Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia, on the Wild Style Network.
Happy
Fueled
Friday.
by Monster Energy. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. And a good live music Friday.
It is Live Music Friday here at the Salisbury Center.
Yeah, we were talking. This is a show that was supposed to happen. I don't know if we call it a punk rock night. I don't know if we call it a hardcore night. I don't know if we call
Friday
it a
night metal. Spotlight on metal.
Exactly. But it was supposed to happen, and we got snowed out.
Yep.
Just about a month ago.
Yep.
But now the snow is gone. It's like, what?
60 something. Right.
Exactly right.
Springtime.
Right. The groundhog saw the shadow, right? Or did not see the shadow.
Did not see his shadow.
So we're living up to it all.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Spotlight on Friday, metal night here at the Salisbury Center, and we got 4 great bands, and we're gonna get them all in the studio. We'll chat them up.
Yeah.
And we've got Mach Zero.
Yep.
And then our friends the Knuckleheads, who've been on before.
Yep.
So we'll be chatting with them. And then Motel Portrait, and then the headliner tonight is Cursor.
Yes. Yeah, all good stuff. And we at least saw Mach Zero warming up, and I loved everything they were doing as they were doing their sound check.
Yeah, and definitely got to listen to some bits and pieces of all the bands earlier today, and it's a wide range of rock and metal and punk.
Yeah.
So, if you got nothing to do tonight, come on down to the Salisbury Center, because it's going to be great live music.
Nothing beats live music, and you don't have a weather excuse, and there's still a little light in the sky. So, you shouldn't be in your jammies by now. You should be still rolling and ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've had a little bit of live music the last couple Fridays.
You and I have, and I feel like I'm going to start by saying I think it's really difficult already. If we start thinking about superlatives early, because it's only early February.
It is early.
It's not even mid-February. Exactly. Not even Valentine's Day hadn't even hit yet.
Nope.
And we got to figure out what is the best of what we've been seeing, because we've been seeing some really, really good stuff.
Yep, and the best may have already happened.
I know. So let's get into that. So Kevin and I went and saw Extreme in Living Color. We saw that bill, Extreme being the headliner. And we've had these tickets for a while. We brought our wives, so we made an event out of it because it was in a casino in West Virginia.
Yep.
And we had to, at least I had to fight the urge not to talk to you all for a solid 24-hour period. It did help that the wives were there, because a lot of times they just don't want to hear this shit.
Exactly.
They're done. We can do it for 15 minutes and then they're done, and they want to talk about more family-oriented type stuff. They're done with the metal or the rock. But when we go to M3, which we will, and that'll be a full 24 hours of rock and
48 hours.
We won't stop talking about it the entire time.
Yep.
So we saved it. We were good, in other words, to this moment.
We did.
Yeah. So where do you want to start?
Well, obviously we've talked a couple times on the show. We kept having Extreme lined up at shows we were going to get to see.
Yes.
Yeah. And then for one reason or another, I think COVID happened one time to some member of the band or all the band or whatever, and we missed them that time. Uh-huh. And then I think Nuno messed up his knee playing pickup basketball
on the Monsters of Rock cruise.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we missed him that time, and finally we got to see him. And I don't know about you, but been listening to him forever. First time I got to see him live.
Yeah. So it's the third or fourth time that I've seen him live, but I've never seen them as a headlining act. So that was the first piece for me, to see them play for 2.5 hours at the energy that they played at.
Right.
And then, so that, and again, I'm going to get into it, where we have found or had a lot of discussions about aging rock bands and reliance on backing tracks and any type of, supports, either, seen or unseen, with vocals or with instrumentation. There was none of that for either of these two bands.
Absolutely not, or it was very, very well hidden.
Yes,
But yeah, no.
I don't believe
it was pretty evident. There was no Memorex around.
No, nothing. So it was what always draws me into going to a concert, which is high energy, organic rock and roll, and that was for both bands. It was that.
Absolutely, and obviously we've seen Living Color a bunch of times, and every single time they put on a great show.
Yeah, and I think I feel like they've gotten better. As some bands start to deteriorate with age, in kind of the mold of like jazz or classic musicians. And I feel that they infuse a lot of jazz into the way that they play rock songs. And the other thing that strikes me, not only they become, and you know, my girlfriend who is a classically trained musician, she likes to use the word seasoned. So you become more seasoned with age. I feel they are seasoned. And they also, in a jazz kind of way, they don't play the song the same way, you know, when you see them again and again. So I had seen them the week before, and they did a headlining show at a local, you know, venue here in Leesburg, Virginia. And so people would ask me like, well, you must really love them. You know, you just saw them twice, like within a week. But the thing is, I saw them twice in a week, and some of the songs were the same, but they weren't. Right. They were different. And maybe that's I'm not a Deadhead, but it's almost like a Grateful Dead kind of thing too, right? Like the people that'll follow a band.
Yeah, that's totally different.
yeah. But you're not seeing it. You're not seeing the same song, even if they're playing Cult of Personality, which is, of course, the song everybody knows. I see it differently every time. And I like to see that change, you know, in the way that they're approaching it and the way that they're playing it, however they're feeling or whatever they're feeling that they're doing that night.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and kind of to the point of no backing tracks and whatnot, you know, the beginning of the Extreme set, everything was a little bit off.
Yeah.
And, you know, they just played through it, you know, like in the older days for us.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have a reliance on backing tracks in some cases, but, you know, and they said, look, yeah, we're having a few technical difficulties, but we're going to roll with it.
Yeah. And they did.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Nuno is outstanding.
He is the Eddie Van Halen, I feel, incarnate, you know, the closest thing to
I would
him.
agree.
Yeah.
And it, you know, there was some talk that, you know, the whether it was with Sammy or with Dave, you know, the kind of tribute to Eddie that was going to be done, you know, everyone was saying he should be the guy. And I would agree. You know, he is definitely, you can tell Eddie was a major influence for him. It shows in his playing, but he takes it to a whole nother level. And it was phenomenal.
And so, you know, like along those lines, since we're talking Van Halen, to say it, because I could have gone off on a couple tangents, you know, with the thoughts that, you know, that you're popping in my head as you were talking and listening to you. But I'll go to Gary Cherone, you know, as the third Van Halen singer.
Right. Yep.
And to me, I think he was really just he got a bad rap, you know, in that role. Because everything goes back to Sammy versus Dave, you know, in the Van Halen camp. And it's kind of like, then screw Gary Cherone because that album sucks. I don't think that you get like a strong Van Halen flavor like you did with David Lee Roth, or a strong Van Halen flavor like you did with Sammy Hagar. It was just kind of an uncooked flavor with Gary Cherone. But when you see him live with Extreme, you see why they picked him.
Yep.
Because he's a bitchin' front man.
Yep.
An amazing front man. I mean, and it's not, you know, it's just his vocals are great, but it's also the show that he is performing as he's singing. He's just high energy, and he's fun to watch, and he's engaging. And, you know, I go back, I was thinking too, just the great documentary we watched last year, the I Wanna Rock, you know, that came out on Paramount Plus, the I Wanna Rock documentary. And Nuno was interviewed heavily in that. There's a little sound check going on with punk rock. We just heard that burst. But, you know, it was really kind of a shame. It was kind of ironic that Nuno was so into Van Halen, and it was revealed that Gary Cherone was not. And he really had to kind of learn those songs. And you can kind of see that he would have been mismatched at first.
Right.
But it's a shame he didn't get a chance to grow, because I feel like that would have been a strong flavor of Van Halen that probably would have worked pretty well.
Sure. And yeah, it was certainly a different album with him, but, you know, I liked that just as much as I liked all the other albums.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to get also, like, the other thoughts that popped in my head was about Nuno Bettencourt and the time of year that we're in right now. And I think of last year's Super Bowl and how he was wasted at last year's Super Bowl. And I don't mean chemically wasted in a fun way. He stood on the stage like a prop. He was a mannequin as Rihanna, is that how you say her name? Rhiannon, whoever she is. Like, obviously, I'm not like a fan. I mean, I'm a fan, I appreciate her, whatever, but I don't listen to her music or whatever, so I might be mispronouncing her name, so I'm sorry about that. But I was interested in seeing Nuno, and he's just standing there. She just kind of danced all around and did her thing. And I'm like, what a fucking waste. You have like one of the best guitar players on the planet, and he's not playing. And you're hearing backing tracks. at least for the music that she's putting up.
Get used to it for this Sunday too.
I know.
There'll be a lot of that to go.
I know. And it gets back to me to the D. Snyder. Remember D. Snyder teed off, I think it was 2016, 2017, long time ago before COVID, that it's the Super Bowl is just really missing a mark because all of the bands that they play during the regular season, during the games, are metal bands. And there should be a metal band playing, because that's what the fans do want to hear.
It's what they play during the games.
Right.
It's what everyone gets into. And I don't know if you heard this, but at the NFC Championship game, Journey performed after the game.
Yeah.
And so, I'm watching the post game and you can hear it.
Yeah.
And it's and I just thought, they were playing their song, in the PA while they were doing the post game. And then a couple friends of mine that are huge Journey fans were like, what the fuck? Journey's performing live and they haven't shown them once in the stadium where they're doing the post game broadcast.
Right.
Like, well, it's just, I don't get it.
Yeah, I know. You missed some great opportunities. And, I know that, getting into a little bit into the Super Bowl and steering away from our show that we saw.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember the Britney Spears, piece in the early 2000s and Aerosmith showed up. It's still a Britney Spears show at that point. It's kind of cute, I guess, to see Steven Tyler jump in there and chime out Britney, but I'd rather see Aerosmith.
Well, and I know it's about popular music and trying to, cater to the people that are getting the most streams and what they feel, more people want to watch. But without a doubt, the band that needs to do the halftime show soon is Metallica.
Yeah.
Because they are one of the most streamed artists on Spotify, on Apple Music.
Our producer just lit up.
And they have been slighted on that. And if they got the opportunity to do that, it would be huge.
It's an obvious choice. Yeah. It's a very obvious choice.
And I just don't know why it hasn't happened yet.
Even when we go to the institutions, we're about to talk about another institution in a little bit, but we go to the institutions that can't get it right. And we go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as Eddie Trunk calls the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame. They've even come to some level of acceptance with Metallica. And without knowing rock and metal and understanding it, they still can understand the validity of Metallica and the popularity of Metallica. Right. So between those two things, I have no idea why they've never made any type of Super Bowl appearance.
And they, they're one of the rock bands. Most of the other bigger rock bands have had their opportunity in that situation. They're deserving of it. And they would make a lot of money off of that.
Yeah.
The sponsors and everybody. So
Well,
Metallica would get well paid too. But.
Right. And I know that you want diversity in fans, but I feel like that there is a lot of diverse groups, that you see represented at a Metallica show. It's just not, just a bunch of, kind of aging white guys, that are sitting there watching Metallica play. There are certainly that. But then there are other, it's to me, a diverse group that shows up at those. And I think that there's,
absolutely,
cross-genre interest in music with Metallica specifically. And so there is a broader appeal that I think that's being missed.
Yep. Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. So,
trying to think what else in that night. So I wanted to get back to Living Color.
Yep.
And all of those musicians, and you're getting back to that live piece. I think what's amazing about Living Color, and I would say this even about Extreme, but obviously I certainly am in love with Living Color. I consider myself a pretty rabid fan of the band. What impresses me about watching them live is nobody's weak. Nobody ever comes across as really missing anything or not fitting in that band. And like I said, that jazz approach, as they're free-forming, as Vernon Reid decides to go in a direction with a song, you see, Will Cahoon will just feed off of that and play off of it, and everything stays together, even though the song's not the same. I'm just so impressed over and over again with how those four can adjust and adapt and play and not have it be the same. And it really does come out with to me, an exceptional live human music experience.
Well, that just shows the level of their musicianship and their ability.
Yeah.
And it's free-forming to a certain extent.
Right.
It's jazz style, like you said.
Yeah, that's a jaw drop, I feel like. Maybe that's what I was going for. It's probably the easiest way to say it. I've just said the long way, but that's the short way. Yeah. I just sit there and I just hear a song. I might have heard him play it live a bajillion times, my jaw will drop when I hear it again. So big props. If you got the chance to live in color, it's a well-priced ticket too.
Yep, for
Grab
sure.
the opportunity.
Well, and as Lou, our partner, always says, everything always comes back to kicks. And the one thing I want to bring up from that show as well is,
glad you're bringing this up.
First it was great, that we go out during intermission between Living Color and Extreme, and then right in front of us is Mark Shanker and Bob Paré.
Yeah.
And then I saw Jimmy Chalfant as well. Yeah. So that was great, seeing
Kix
them
was
out.
In the crowd.
Kix was in the crowd.
Yeah.
But not only that, Extreme took a moment during Nuno during the show to recognize Kix and the fact that not only that they were there, but their contributions to rock. So that was, I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then I saw some stuff on social media on some of the Kix fan pages, and I think on Bob's page as well. They met him either before or after. We're backstage, and so that was it was really cool to see that.
It's like, if all roads lead back to Kix, and I think that's why we talk about them so much. And obviously they're local favorites here, and we're locals, in this area in the Mid-Atlantic region. With that band, but it gets back to like the Dio documentary and how we liked it so much, and how we just like Ronnie James Dio so much. It's the integrity and the authenticity,
right?
And that's always been a band with a high degree of integrity and authenticity, and you saw that to the very last show. So it's great that other bands obviously see that too and can recognize it and call it to the the attention of everyone. Yeah,
and it was fun, and the other thing was in a crowd that from that area, not a lot of people were recognizing them either.
Yeah.
So they were able to enjoy the show and not have to deal with a lot of folks and, that kind of stuff. So they got to be fans. So that was cool too.
Yeah. So like if we wanted to put in a plug for Bob Paré and Mark Shanker, we can put in a plug for Sundogs, the M3 Rock Festival.
Absolutely.
So if you're in the area, and you haven't bought your M3 Rock Festival tickets yet, you will be seeing them. Are they Sunday?
I think they are Sunday.
Yes. So they're opening the show on Sunday.
Yep. And for those that don't know, it's a Rush tribute band, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
So
Mark, the bassist, does the vocals, and I get the first question I typically get is like, he's pulling off Geddy Lee, and hell yeah, he's pulling off Geddy Lee. Sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that too.
All right.
So you take a little quick break and get some of the bands up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So we're going to step away here, and we should
grab Mach Zero.
And we'll start chatting with the bands that are here at the Salisbury Center tonight for Spotlight on Friday night, Metal Night here. And we'll be right back on the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show.
Welcome in,